With this story from Snopes from a few days ago, did a church that embraces LGBTQ plus people burn down after a lightning strike? Was this climate change?
White supremacy. Lightning is very white. That was absolutely white supremacy.
Good point.
So,
Zeus is a white nationalist?
Zeus is a white nationalist. You see him, the gray hair, the beard, the trident.
That proves all of it.
All the markings.
So
irrefutable.
As sort of a buffer between culture war and the fact that the air is unsafe to breathe, we had this story, and was it you that brought it up, Seamus, or was it Ian?
No, I brought it up. I saw that on my newsfeed, and I started laughing. I was like, is this real? And then it turns out it was.
This guy, Eric Kahn, says, woke LGBTQ plus church gets struck by lightning and burns to the ground.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
Snopes did a fact check, and guess what? It did get struck by lightning. It did burn to the ground. It did support LGBTQ issues, but they won't write true on it.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they actually were fact-checking the claim specifically that it happened because it was a punishment from God? And they were like, fact check, true. We have to admit it. It's true this time. We'll give them that. And
But look,
being objective.
Normally, Snopes will be like, true, thing happened, false, mostly false. In this article, it says, it's from today, actually. Did a church that embraces LGBTQ plus people burn down after a lightning strike? The answer is yes, it did. It quite literally did. Now, that's not to say God literally struck the church down, but Snopes won't even write true here. Yeah, so they say...
Snopes have an explanation.
On June 6th, a viral tweet with a video of a church building fire began to receive thousands of engagements. The caption of the tweet read, woke LGBTQ plus church gets struck by lightning and burns to the ground. In the story, we've laid out the facts. Blah, blah, blah. They say the tweet was captured June 2nd. The church did embrace these issues over the past several years. So that's all you really need to understand. And of course, they don't want the narrative to be that a thing like this did happen. Do you guys remember when the George Floyd mural exploded when struck by lightning?
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, man.
I mean, I gotta say twice. I don't know.
Yeah, but stuff like this might happen all the time.
Also,
right.
And no.
But the question is, how do you determine whether it's something beyond or something just...
Well, I think you also have to look, to be rational for a second, which is boring. I mean, it looks like a pretty rural area. It might have just been the tallest building in town with a steeple, which would have logically attracted the lightning.
But they don't want to inflame the radical right. Christian, what do you call them?
The church was already inflamed.
That believe God will strike you down kind of thing.
Right, which is, to me, has been a problem for the conservative movement for years. That's a whole nother show.
I think that there is something to be said for this, right? Because obviously we're sort of being facetious about this lightning, or this mural being struck by lightning and the church being struck by lightning.
No, I don't know about that mural, bro.
But I will say, I'll say this.
Yeah, that was like flat against the wall.
I think this specific thing got struck by lightning is actually a more convincing argument than the weather is vaguely changing, so we're going to blame X, Y, and Z. Like you actually have a specific target there, so it makes more sense to make the argument.
You have a very complicated argument that consistently morphs to fit whatever the left's political views are. And then you have, does God smite? No, that George Floyd thing, I don't know, man. This is why...
So you'll say George Floyd, but not this church? For shame, Tim.
I think because
buildings
mural,
get struck by lightning.
No,
the George Floyd mural was a flat brick wall, and the only thing that exploded off the wall was the picture of just George Floyd, and it was like one small storm cloud floating over and went...
Yeah. Here's the thing.
That was like sniper level.
Study.
Yeah, that was like...
God is a sniper.
Sniper smiting.
Yeah. We need to do a survey to find if LGBTQ churches get struck by lightning more often.
If they do,
then absolutely.
So anecdotally, I went to Burning Man, and there's at the end of the Burning Man week, there's the temple that everyone like puts their old thoughts and feelings. They all have like notes from dead loved ones, things they want to like let go of and grieve over. They put them in the temple, and the energy at the temple when you go to the temple is just like siphoning up, and it was tough to get near that place, and I was tripping. So I could be out of my mind, but I think there might be something to like honing energy into physical objects. Complete anecdotal nonsense. Of course, religions from time immemorial talk about it, imbuing an idol and things like that.
And cultures have sacrificed children to the weather. For millennia.
Yep. I think people are known to have called lightning. Is that like...
What if like it turns out that you actually do have to sacrifice your kids to Moloch to stop the weather from going bad?
Yeah, but I'll tell you, stranger things are happening around us. I mean, let's face it. If these crazy things started happening, Would anybody be really that surprised at this point?
I certainly would not.
Would
if
we
the
really
ground,
go, oh my God, this can't happen at this point?
I'm pretty sure if the ground split, a fissure emerged in DC with like lava bubbling up, and Moloch emerged with glowing red eyes, people would be like, huh.
Snopes would be like,
they were
fact
right.
check. That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the fact that it is Washington, D.C. Moloch could have arisen anywhere.
With this church lightning strike, I would believe more that it's a directed energy weapon from like space than it is God.
Why?
If I had to pick.
But like, who would do it though? As a directed
Russians.
laser?
And why pick? Why
Yeah,
pick
because Putin doesn't like gay people.
Spencer, Massachusetts as your target of opportunity?
Right. So division. You know, you want to you want to set people on their heels.
Spencer, Massachusetts.
Or the Church of Spain? I don't know. Is it?
Putin is like, we must target Spencer.
I'm gonna take
one
this
will
a
go
step
down
further.
well.
But it turns out the church was actually like a covert CIA base.
So like a
of
listening
operations.
station where Putin was just
what's under the
slighted
church.
there once at a massage parlor or something like that.
Well, I think we can take this a step further. The reason this church was struck by lightning was because of climate change, which is the fault of Republicans. Therefore, this is a hate crime. Boom.
I'm just going to blame it on Liz Warren.
Yeah.
When did this?
It's always a safe bet.
Yeah.
Did it get struck today or yesterday? Was it after the wildfires?
No, this is from June 2nd. Someone super chatted John Fisher saying there's satellite footage showing all the fires in Canada starting at the exact same time. Totally not suspect. It says not suspicious.
I'm seeing this online now too.
People are saying that.
Yeah. They
that
just
a,
got that tweeted at me.
Could
So
be
what are
like
they
a
implying? Arson?
So they're implying that someone has some kind of space laser that they can use to start fires with.
or like a temporal
That seems silly.
critical mass. Temporal, is that the right word? Temperature wise, critical mass. Like it hit a certain temperature and then everything got really flammable at like 96 degrees.
You'd have
or
to have like a very, very powerful laser in space to be able to hit the Earth with that kind of, to start a fire.
But I will tell you guys something, another anecdote. But about 12 years ago, I was outside of Vegas. So I said, let me take a ride by that area, Area 51 and those entrances. And there's a couple of little businesses there. And I'm talking to a guy who's a local. Maybe 100 people live around there. And the guy was a normal, rational guy. He worked in Vegas for the casinos and all, contractor. And I said to him jokingly, I said, do you guys see UFOs? He goes, no, that's all nonsense. He said, but you got to see. He said, some nights you'll sit out here and these energy weapons, he said, would blow your mind. Some of the stuff we see him test, only because you can't avoid it, right? It's just these big, vast areas and against the contrasted dark sky. So the capability is certainly there. I mean, the military hasn't been shy about alluding to the fact that these things exist at this point. I mean, we have Space Force, right? Clearly, we didn't make Space Force a branch of the military to do research and horticulture 18,000 miles up or whatever it is, how many miles up we are. So there's definitely something to that. I mean, I got to believe we've got weapons floating around up there.
And we just said Canada's had it too good for too long. We're gonna.
They really have. Come on, they've been like a very like.
I actually don't know about that. Has
It's
it been
not the
that great?
Canadians, it's the trees.
the trees
that
did.
we're
It's the
upset by?
trees.
They're upset about the CO2. It's
The trees were saying some naughty words and hate speech
they
and all
were.
that.
Yeah, those ents.
Yeah.
I hear about Lockheed Martin's compact fusion reactor. They started this program in 2010. It's a fusion power project at Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works. And so if they're public about a fusion program,
what aren't they public?
yes, and how much energy can they actually direct? Probably.
Oh, dude. I saw a tour of a nuclear submarine just on the news. And I'm just like, okay, if they're publicly showing us how to do this, then
what do we have?
we got something way crazier.
Yeah, think about it, right? We found out about the stealth fighter, not the bomber, not the B-2, the F-117, that Nighthawk, somewhere in like the late 80s, early 90s, right? That thing was operational since 1978. We found out about that 12, 13 years later. So
And
who
people,
knows?
People probably thought it was aliens.
They probably did.
They did.
They certainly did, right? And the B-2. So what in the world are we deploying now? We know about these things and they're out there.
Flying cubes.
I wish that
Talking
I could
plasma.
I wish I could remember the exact. I wish I could remember the exact example he gave me. But when I had Jimmy Aiken on my show yesterday, he was talking about the fact that there was a fighter a stealth fighter the government was testing, and people were seeing it, and they thought it was extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
And the government was basically like relieved and letting people believe that because they didn't want people to be onto their capabilities.
Oh, so that's probably why this new disclosure came out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they'll
when we're at war
misdirect,
with
sure.
Russia, that's also a point he made, right? Right when the United States is getting involved in one side of a conflict. And he was also saying that the U.S. sort of wanted the USSR to think that we were in contact with extraterrestrials so that they would be afraid that we had alien firepower, which is completely insane. But apparently there's like actual records that the government was interested in this strategy. And so you see this whistleblower who's coming out and saying that we're studying this craft that wasn't made by humans right at the same time that we're getting involved in this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. You think, yeah, maybe one explanation here is it's a psyop, and we want the Russians to believe that we do have an alien craft, which is crazy.
Isn't this the premise to The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Yes, right. That really happened though. The United States tried to trick the Russians into thinking that we were trying to develop telepathy. So then the Russians heard that and they said, "Oh my goodness, America is trying to research telepathy." So they actually started doing it, and then we saw they were doing it, and we actually tried to start doing it. We psyoped ourselves into trying to develop telepathic methods.
Did it work?
No, they tried to give people heart attacks. They tried to get these psychics together, to your earlier point, to channel energy, but to give them heart attacks.
Maybe it did work.
And apparently it didn't work, and they disbanded. Or maybe it did work, and
I heard that they teach CIA assets not to, if they're following someone, not to stare at the person they're following, because it'll give the person a tendency to turn around, like when you're being watched, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's not normal.
And apparently there are people who have come out and said remote viewing is real. That the U.S. military worked on it and actually were able to engage in remote.
I was
viewing.
looking at. I did a bonfire a couple nights ago, and I was looking at the coals after the fire was over, and just like the way they were moving and like all kind of glowing in senescence. I don't know what the right word is. In essence, it was like, dude, I can see how ancient shaman would stare into the coals and see visions, because it like almost takes your brain over, man. And you might just see what you think you want to see, but that is a meditation.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Ian keeps everybody here honest.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, embers are. It is actually interesting, just sort of the way fire operates. There's so much beauty in nature that I think it'd be misunderstood, but that certainly like lends itself to the human mind creating something more from it.
Did you guys watch the CIA whistleblower 2 days ago talk about the alien thing? It's the most. Yeah. I watched it and it was like, okay, this guy's lying. This is obviously lying. The way he said, he's like, I swear to God, it happened. Like he didn't say swear to God. He said something the way he used a word that was like, that was made it very apparent that he was like lying. Maybe we can watch it or bring it up at some point. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I watched his interview.
It's like 30 seconds long.
I didn't get a chance to see it.
He wasn't convincing. No, he's right. It was more like, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Like I did this. I saw it. Trust me, bro. No, you're not going to get any proof. He wasn't. There have been more convincing whistleblowers. The only thing that worked in his favor, I think, is that his attorney was a pretty well-respected guy. He was the DODIG, Inspector General, who is insisting that he believes him. Now, again, I didn't believe him either, but he's certainly not, this guy's a government employee. He's not making the kind of money that one would make to retain an attorney like this if the attorney thought it was all BS. So it makes you wonder why this guy would take on the case, why this guy would put his reputation in front of it, unless he was read in to a different program and they're using this as a disinformation tool to throw the bad guys off.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like we're about to start deploying some crazy stealth or like energy weapon tech over Ukraine. Sure. And they want him to think it's alien.
Yeah, so you go to an old DODIG guy who probably still carries his clearance. His TSSCIs were reputable, and you tell him, hey, play ball here. You were one of us for a while. Help play ball here, help spread this, and it serves its purpose.
Okay, wait, I found a clip. It's hard to find a lot. This is only 6 seconds.
David Grush.
Believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
And believe it or not, who says believe it or not when they're trying to tell someone what happened? And believe it or not, Tim, it really happened.
Yeah.
Come on, no one talks like that.
No.
Yeah. He's trying to convince the guy.
He looks like every guy we locked up for something who tried to convince us he didn't do it.
Well, we were going to segue from weather into culture war issues and turn it to weather and aliens instead, because you just can't control where it goes. So now we're going to hard segue back.
But you can control the weather.
You can.
If you sacrifice.
Or with lasers or silver iodide.
Oh, yeah.
Not space lasers, quite literally, just infrared lasers are used to seed clouds.
Seed clouds.
And they use silver iodide as well, and they've done that since the 60s. And it's really funny that if you tell someone that the government controls the weather, the implication is that you're crazy, and it's like I learned this in grade school.
Right.
They showed us a book, and they're like cloud seeding. Here's how it works.
I think they do it over Dubai. Is it? They made it rain over Dubai.
Yeah, they do that, and it was public. I mean, they made a media event out of it. There's no secret there.
Yeah, it condenses all of the water vapor into clouds, making rain come down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to start controlling lightning. I want to know more about their lightning programs.
The problem with lightning is that you can't measure the charge, the voltage, whatever. And so I was reading about why we don't capture lightning energy to use. And it's like, you can't measure it, so you can't store it properly. You need to know, volts, amps, or whatever, the power that's coming through to be able to accurately, but you can't do that.
Did you guys see the blue sprites above Earth's atmosphere when lightning strikes? They sends a blue flame out into space. Like the lightning comes down, and as it's coming down, a piece of blue flame goes out and up. So there's like some cosmic
that's
crap.
great. That does look very cool.
You're looking at a blue sprite.
Have you ever just one more thing about lightning before we move on? Next time there is a lightning storm where you are, get the slow-mo camera out on your iPhone if you have one and just film. It's crazy to watch that in slow motion.
That was a howling wind. Did you hear that?
I did hear that.
Whatever you do, don't run into the gay church.
Don't do it. Lightning's spectacular, man. I love it.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.